Okay, I'm Lisa Ann McCall, physical therapist, posture princess, lover of movement. Today, we're going to talk about stretching. Stretching is a word that everybody has a different definition for, but I have a very specific way in which I look at stretching. A lot of people will do the movements I teach and say, wow, those are nice stretches. It's funny, I don't really think about them as stretches. I think about them as structurally rebuilding the way you move so that you can eliminate pain and you can have freedom and comfort in your movement. But yes, the sensation of stretching is very real, very true, and you do stretch certain areas more than others. So today I want to take an old-fashioned stretch that I think a lot of people do. I say old-fashioned, just been around a long time. And I'd like to take this stretch and clean it up so that it has a lot more purpose and it really gives back to you. It will give you strength. It will give you balance. It'll give you better mobility. It gives you better skill in movement. So let's do it. I'm going to go to the floor. Okay. I did a YouTube video of this, so if you want more of this later. And what I did was I stacked a lot of pillows here on the floor, and I was assuming that everybody, or not that many people, would be very tight. And to do this stretch, you have to be able to sit on the floor. Now, if you can't sit on the floor, you could put a pillow under your butt like I'm doing right now, and you could put your legs out and straddle something. And that would be a similar thing. But I'm going to ask you to please attempt to just get to the floor. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the floor and demo what I think a lot of people do. A lot of people just get on the floor, stretch their legs apart the best they can, and begin to do things like this. And really there is absolutely no meaning and direction behind that. I mean, if you want to just play and stretch, you want to have a good time, it feels good, that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with rolling around and just stretching for the fun of it. But if you really want to find out how to use stretch in a functional, strategic, and skillful way to change the way you move and get rid of pain, then listen to this. I focus on structure, not on muscles. I focus on bone, not on soft tissue. Your muscles follow your bones. You just need to know how to relax more so that we can get more of the changes we're looking for. So why this isn't very effective is I'm really bending, if you can look at the waist, at my waist, and I'm going like this, and it may feel good, but there's no long-term changes that I can use from that. But let's make it that way. So if you are tight, start from up here and squat down. Like I said, I have a video that I just put out yesterday that you can watch that. I'm going to do it assuming that people can get to the floor and sit down, and you get a few pillows and whatever's right for you. Now, I'm very mobile in my hips, but I do that for a living. And I'm more mobile than most people just because I know the benefits of it, and I do Kung Fu, so I need it for what I do. But I have a very specific way that I set up my pelvis. This is my pelvis, this bone structure. And I have a very specific way I set it up. And then my spine is sitting upright. Then, and only then, do I move my legs out and stretch them. I start with my center and my structure, and I move my extremities, arms and legs, to the place I want once I'm set up. You see this in golf. You see this in sports. There's a setup, and then there's the movements of the extremities. Okay, so when I go to sit down here, I want to make sure I have a little arch in my back, or I'm sitting on my crotch. There's two ways of looking at this. So I can go down. I happen to be mobile enough to be able to sit on my crotch. I'm going to go sideways so you can see me from a side view. Now I roll forward a little. So I'm trying to get on the front of my pubic bone. I don't necessarily want to be back here on my, what people call my sit bones. You may feel your sit bones, but think of it as the crotch of your pants. It's right along there. There's the front of it and there's the back of it. And I want you to go forward. So if I'm sitting forward on my crotch, then I have the pillows. I bring my butt back and I have a slight arch. And then if you're too tight to stretch your legs out or you need to put them here, that's fine. But my spine can now sit up straight. I can sit up and not have to work at sitting up. And then I extend my legs out. Now, you may say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's too hard. Okay. There's a little trick. You get close to a piece of furniture or a wall, and you sit forward on your crotch, and you can just stick more things behind you to help you be straight. Okay? So I love to cheat. I mean, cheating, that's cheating. I like it. It works. So that's kind of pressing my back into a straight position so I'll be more on my crotch. And the reason so many people are tight in here is because you do not use this part of your body in the way that it was designed. You don't use it as functionally as you can, and it's really a powerful part of your structure to help you bend and move, and I'll show you in a minute. So when you're forward like this, however you get here, then you can put your legs out, pull your toes up, and you should feel probably quite a bit of stretch in here. Now, I can go further out. It doesn't really matter. And a lot of times I'll go out and I'll sit like this and knit, maybe watch some sports. But I sit in it to the degree of discomfort that's not that big of a deal. You know, I mean, I'm feeling a stretch, but I'm not like dying. And then I may bring my legs in and rest and then go back out. So I'm just trying to gain stretch in a way that I'm comfortable, but I'm also know I'm stretching. So that's kind of important. It will cause you to do it more often if it doesn't feel daunting. Like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. It's so hard. Well, it really won't be. If you did this every day for a week, you'd be absolutely amazed how much your body will change just because, well, you just did it every day. And how long you do it, it's really up to you. I don't think you need it more than a few minutes. If you get up to 10 minutes, that's a lot. You may need to take breaks and then bring your legs back out and roll forward. So what is the rolling forward? This is important. So I'm going to bring my shirt up enough for you to see my white little belly that's relaxed. And what I want you to understand is here's my belly button, and below that belly button, that is where I'm hinging. That's in line with my hip joint. I don't flex in my upper body, not in this situation. Now, some people you can have a table in front of you or an ottoman, pull it around and you can lean on it. That's fine too. But the minute you bend correctly, meaning not at the waist, but below the belly button right there, you will begin to strengthen your back because your back is now engaged a little and you have an arch, and now you're learning how to bend. And if you learn how to bend with technical proficiency, which is what I'm teaching you, you will be amazed at your ability to have comfortable hips, better balance, stronger back. You just be all around feeling better. Very powerful part of our body is our hips. Very powerful is the relationship between the spine and the hips and the legs. And what I mean by relationship is if it doesn't coordinate, In other words, if I go out on a tennis court and I'm all slumped over and I try to hit a tennis ball or a pickleball, it's going to be inefficient. So this relationship of my spine upright, my hip mobility, and where I place my legs, all of these things, when they are coordinating well together, like in any sport, I just happen to be the sport of everyday movements. That's where I look at, because that's the foundation to all other movements. The foundation to movement is what you do the minute how you get out of bed, how you walk across the room, how you bend over to wash your face, how do you pick up your dog bowl. All those things are your foundation, whether you like it or not, it is. And then when you go play pickle or tennis or basketball, whatever foundation you have, you take into that sport. And that's where I see injuries. People don't have a lot of good foundational movements. Okay, so here I've been sitting and I stretched. Then I can bring my legs together. And then you would be surprised probably that getting up isn't as hard as you maybe was getting down. You can use something behind you. But I'm going to think about taking my crotch up and hinging up. So this movement is how you bend. That's all I was doing. I was just in a position that caused me to bend well. I just happened to be sitting on the floor with my legs sticking out, and I was bending with my torso and not very far. Don't expect a lot of movement because people just don't have that range of motion right in their bodies. And it depends on how much you want and how much you need. It's different for everyone. But I will show you this. The people, before they became Westerners and lived in a very modern society, this is how they would bend. Let me get back a little. They'd be bending and working in the ground, and their kid would be sitting right here. And the majority of my weight right now is right here. My spine is structurally holding itself because it's locked out, and my pelvis is in a position to where these guys right here and my back and my butt are just helping me move along, and I can just move along like that. And when you have range of motion that you need, and that's range that we need, then you can move really well and get really strong. When people have too much range of motion, like in yoga sometimes, I mean, it's relative. I can't just say yoga. I just say some yoga postures ask you to have mobility that doesn't make any sense. And what ends up happening is if you do a certain yoga poses, and you force yourself into movements that aren't natural, then your body's joint, okay, you have these in your joints, you have these things called Golgi tendon organs. But anyway, your body, you're telling your body to ignore certain sensory inputs. So if you get too flexible, then you can overly extend in a movement and then injure your joint. And your joints they're really smart. They have all these receptors in them. They can have them in the joint capsule. Sometimes they have them in into the tendons. And sometimes some of them, these receptors are in the ligaments. I mean, they're everywhere. They're not some or not. They're just everywhere in the joints. And that's why an ankle doesn't have a lot of muscle, but it has a lot of proprioceptive receptors that make it smart. So the ankle needs to be really smart because it doesn't have a lot of muscle to protect it and to do what it needs to do. And that's why your hands are really smart. They have a lot of receptors, but they don't have a lot of protection. So I'm getting off on that. But I just want you to understand that you can overstretch and that can create an injury. So you want to have full range of motion of your joints, but not more than that. Because then things start to get messed up because you're starting to get outside of the way the body was naturally designed to move. And when you move with respect to all the areas of the body and the way they move, it's unbelievable how good you can move. And you see it all the time in professional athletes. You see them do things that you just can't imagine. But all that is, well, it's a gift, but it's also just the harmony of all the different joints in the body and muscles working together to create a skillful movement. And skillful movements are gorgeous to watch, as well as experience. So there you go. That is my story today. Woo! So stretching with a purpose. And now I'm ready for any questions. I have to just see. Hello.
I've got a question from Bob in Bloomington, Illinois. I don't understand when you say stretching the old way doesn't mean anything.
Okay, and I make these kind of radical remarks sometimes. So let me make meaning out of that. You may feel better after you stretch, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you haven't made any kind of permanent change that you can carry with you. Your body has a language, and I'm trying to help you to get back in touch with the language that many of us have lost because we don't move enough. And so when I just stretch and I reach and I'm bending at the waist, I may be creating some comfort and decreasing some tension in certain muscles, but there isn't a game plan. There really isn't an understanding to your body how to move different because of that stretch. So to me, stretching should have a purpose that causes you to move better, to get out of pain, to be more balanced, have a continuity to it. There's a skill to stretching. So when I just randomly stretch, nothing's wrong. Sometimes I like this one. But it isn't making some sort of permanent change. It is just a temporary relief. And that's okay too. But I just go deeper with this. I take stretching to a different place. And I want it to have meaning so that you're not constantly chasing your tail going, well, I got to go stretch again. Well, I got to go stretch again. And you go stretch again and stretch again, but you have the same movements and they haven't changed. So you got to go stretch again and you go stretch again, but it's not creating a permanent change to where you're moving more intelligently. That's what I like to do and help people with. I hope that helps.
Eve in Everett, Washington says, you say that once you get your pelvis in the right place, then you can put your extremities in the right places. Is your spine an extremity?
No, thank you for asking. Pelvis and spine are really, really tightly connected. So watch this. If I put my pelvis in this position, what happens to my upper spine? It curves forward. If I wanted to do a forward roll, this would be a good thing. Now watch this. If I push my butt way back and my way up in the air, then my spine starts to curve the other way. So my spine follows my pelvis, okay? And there are lots of little details in the spine that need changing at times. But in general, if you put your pelvis in a position where your pubic bone is under you and you have a small arch, that small arch is the base of your spine. So you have your sacrum, which is that triangle bone. And then you have L5, L4, and those are really important joints to create a stable spine. And it is connected to that pelvis. So when my pelvis moves, my spine moves. So my extremities are my arms and my legs.
Carol in Cincinnati says, I know everybody's different, but what causes so much difficulty? Is it the tightness in my legs, in my hips, or in my lower back?
It's all connected. And I would say yes to all of them because of the way, probably because of the way we sit. And it's very, there's a big movement today in tightening this area a lot and getting more tension in here, which moves the pelvis into a tension and tight place. But a lot of people, when they sit, they'll tuck their bottom and they're slumped, and they'll either they'll cross their legs, and this creates the tension it actually creates tension all the way up to the neck through the legs. That is, if you had to work on the land and bend all day, you may think it would be really a drag. But if you knew how to bend, or I was there with you to show you how to work out, you would feel so good at the end of the day, because you may be tired and sore, but you would have used these big these big movements that create a lot of freedom and lack of tension. Tension is a result of some mentally that we are sort of stressed out. That definitely is a part, but also that we're just moving so little and we forgot how to move well. It's really the forgetting how to move well. I don't move all day. I mean, I move around my house and I go to Kung Fu, but I move well. I mean, it's just a part of who I am. And because I move well, I'm real sensitive if I'm on a couch, or I'm just gonna be on this Chase Lounge. So if I'm on this Chase Lounge, I'm gonna sit, and I'm gonna sit back, and I'm gonna make sure I'm in a position that feels really good. And then I've got that L shape, and then I'll put a pillow here and I'll knit. So I've shown another video of how to sit, but my body says, I want this. I want to sit in this L. I want my legs to be relaxed. I put a pillow here, I knit. My neck is happy, and when I get up, I bend from my hips. It's just part of my life. And that's what I try to show every week, is how to have your life movements give back to you.
Mark here in Flagstaff says, you talk about different sports. The difference in pickleball is that I can bend my legs, and that makes it easier to keep my back straight.
That's good. It's true. It's true. Now, that's totally true, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's beautiful. Okay? So let's just take that concept and play with it just a little. Let's tweak it a little. So what he's saying, in a way, if I hope I'm getting this right, is if he bends his knees a little, that frees up a little bit of tension in here, which is great, which is fine. Then he has ability when he leans forward to keep this straight. Because if his legs are straight, well, it's not going to help him move as well, and he may have a problem with this, right? So you have my full support, and we are collaborating on this concept. Now, I'm showing you how to stretch so that you can take it another level. You're out there, pickleball, you got a little softness in your knees. You got to go way down there, or you want to get over here, and you want to be able to move left and right better, because this in here is real important. So you could go forward and back and sides. You could pick up your balls different. And at the end, you're stronger. So I'm a fan of some bend in the knees when you bend. Now, these people that live in Africa and Central America and different parts of the world where they bend over all day to work in the fields, it's amazing. They can keep their legs stretched straight, and they are bending from the hip. It's the most beautiful looking thing. It's amazing, but it takes a lot of skill to get to that level. It's not that important. It's not like you one day that you become more balanced. It's an ongoing, it's a language. It's a human body movement language. So yes, having your knees soft, but I'm just giving you with this more choices, taking that concept on a deeper level. Yeah.
This last question is kind of related. It's from Don in Denver. He says, so when I'm seated on the floor, can I cheat by bending my legs to keep my pelvis and spine in place?
Yes. So, I want you. Yes. Because what you said that's so important is I'm going to keep my pelvis and spine in place. That's number one. That is number one. And when you do that, you stabilize your spine while you're stretching your legs. So let's do that. So let's say I'm sitting on the floor. I'm on my, like you said, I'm on my crotch. My spine is, everything's right, but that's as far as I can go with my legs. Okay. You might want to try to take a little more here and here. This is what you have. This is what you have. And you can stretch a little and it will give. These muscles are designed to give. They give. You're here, you can put a little. I like repeating a movement over and over. I think this is the way the body lets go easier. And then you can even put a couple of pillows on the outsides of your knees like that. Let this open. Let this open. And then you can extend or go out more. You can support these. If this is cheating, then I love it. But I don't put them under my knees. I put them out. I'm open. Okay? I want this open. I want you on your crotch. And then you just play with getting more motion and leaning forward. And you will feel the change. What you're doing is you're really honoring and respecting the mechanics of the spine and the hips and the legs and how they all work together. Think of it just like if a tennis coach said to a high-level tennis player, I want you to grip it just a little different, that handle. You just a little change here and a little change there to put spin on the ball, to hit the ball in a certain place on the court. All those fine little changes make a difference in the way that person's going to hit the ball. And that is the way your whole body works. The smallest changes in the way you move your pelvis. I mean, chiropractors have been doing it forever. They make small adjustments to someone's structure to get relief for someone. But you are kind of being your own physical therapist, chiropractor. You're really adjusting the way, the tension from your muscles and tendons. You're adjusting that tension in a very small way to gain that big change. So it's not an easy concept, but think of the fact that every stretch you do, unless you just feel like stretching, and I do, I'll play. I don't want to say this doesn't have any meaning, but it doesn't have the meaning to give back to you the language of movement. So use your stretching in a way that's really productive. That's it. So, oh yeah, you can share and you can like and you can subscribe and you can ask me questions, because when you ask questions, then I have ideas about what else to talk about. Okay. Adios.